welcome to the Afro Girl Diaries channel. My name is Belinda. This channel is all about beauty, brains, and African sauce. If you're all about something, you might as well wear your brand. So today's video is an addition to the career series. We're talking about placements. So you may have heard of industrial placements before. In some countries, they call them work placements. Whatever you refer to it, it's basically a year in between your undergraduate degree. Normally, it's an undergraduate degree that most people do their work placement in. So it's usually for a period of 12 months or even longer or shorter. But most of the time, especially in the UK, it's usually a 12-month break from your study that you use to work in a certain company. So you're on a work placement. So I have done one before. And before I get into the details of that, I just thought I'd share some tips on why I did the industrial placement and why I think you should do it. But of course, when we assess something, we should always look at the pros and cons. And in this video, I will definitely share some pros, which are the reasons why I did the placement, and also some cons so that you can consider and make an informed decision. So I did a placement in the summer of 2015, all through to the summer of 2016. So it was around 12 months, but I did extend by another 3 months because you join uni in September. So I just decided to extend it. So it was around 15-month placement that I did with IBM. I'm sure most of you know IBM or have heard of IBM, but it's a software company. It started off as a hardware company selling laptops and computers, but now it mainly provides software services to other businesses. So I did my placement in South Bank in London, so in their London office. So of course I did have to move from Manchester, which is where I did my university, down to London to do my placement. I did it as a security health check analyst in their global technology services business unit. So that was my role. I think if you've watched some of my videos, you'll know that I have studied electronic engineering. So my placement wasn't directly related to what I studied, but it was still within scope. So it was basically permitted by my university to go and do it. So I joined this placement through the Leading to Africa placement scheme. So at the time, IBM in the UK had this Leading to Africa scheme where targeted at African students or students in the UK who are interested in Africa. So you didn't have to be from an African country, but you had to have an interest in Africa because during that time, IBM was breaking into the African market. So they did have a lot of projects targeted towards the African market. I'm not too sure if the scheme is still there now, but that was 5 years ago. So that's how I applied into my work placement with IBM. So what is an industrial placement? I've kind of already covered it. It's a 12-month break from your study to go and work. And it's usually acknowledged by your university. So when you graduate, you have with industrial placement in your degree. So it's acknowledged. You have to get permission from your university to do it. It's also supervised. So you do get a supervisor. You're assigned a supervisor by your university who comes to visit you every quarter just to check what you're doing and to make sure that what you're doing is developing you and is basically adding skills that you can use towards your degree. So it's not just something that you go off and do on your own, especially if you're an international student. Because you're still on your student visa, you do need to have permission from your university to go and do this work placement because they're still your sponsor. When I joined uni, I didn't know about the placement scheme, so I had just enrolled onto the normal MEng, which is a 4-year program. But then when most universities do allow you to go onto it even if you hadn't enrolled onto it before. So what you do, you go and find your placement. So no one finds the placement for you. You have to go through the typical job application process, go for interview, go for assessment center, and then when you get your offer, you then go to so for me, when I got my offer is when I went to the student office and I did let them know that I've received this offer. I know I'm not on the placement scheme, but I'd like to do this placement. And of course they accepted. Because I was already on the 4-year degree, I had a 4-year visa. So it didn't really affect my visa because at the time I still had duration on my visa to do the placement. So on to the pros and the cons. Why would you bother to go for a placement? So one of the most obvious ones is you get work experience. And this is really, really, really critical, especially when you want to improve your employability skills when you finish your degree or your chances of getting a job. So basically, whenever you go and do summer internships, which is another option of getting work experience, you're only there for what, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? It's not really a long enough time for you to have really grown into the role that you are doing for that company, to really understand how to work in a work environment. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's a long enough time for you to have really grasped the skills that you needed. But over a 1 year period, surely anyone, even if you have never done that job before, after 12 months, you really know how to do that job. So it gives you time to really grow in your role and to be a proper, not professional, you're not an expert, but you do really gain very useful work experience that will really set you apart when you go for your interview. Another pro is most, I wouldn't say all, because there might be some that are not paid, but most of these schemes are paid. So you're not working for free. You get a proper salary just like everybody else. Of course, it's a bit lower than a graduate because you haven't graduated, you don't have a degree. So but you do get paid good money. It's not little money. So you can use that time to not only build work experience, but also earn some money. And trust me, I got a bit of a culture shock when I had to go back to being a full-time student after getting a full salary for a whole year. So you do get good money. Also, it's an opportunity for you to grow your network. Your network is usually your net worth. So the people you interact with in that company, especially like IBM, I mean, anyone who is doing any technology related degree, IBM is like your dream company to go and work for. So basically, the people you're interacting with, you can build relationships such that when you now come back to apply for graduate placement, once you're done with your degree, you have higher chances than somebody else. They would also probably let you know vacancies before they've even opened. So for us, for example, the interns and placement students that were at IBM, we got to put in our applications way earlier than they had even been advertised for the public. So you get kind of like fast tracked, which happens in most big companies. So it's worth getting your foot in, even if it's through an internship, through this placement scheme. It's worth getting your foot in, getting to know these people who could be your potential, team members in the future. Something that I also noted while I was at IBM as a security consultant, I quickly realized what career path may be suitable for me. So when you go on your placement scheme, you may realize that yes, the degree I'm studying is the one and I'm going to go into this industry and this is it. You can also realize the opposite. So for me, I realized the opposite. I realized that, okay, actually, I think I want to do consulting. So of course I did engineering. The most natural path to go in is either as an engineer, even a software engineer is still related to electronic engineering, it's not too far off. But I actually realized that, the technology consultants looked like they were having the right balance for me, in my opinion. They looked like they had a balance of, technology knowledge being required, but they also had some insight into the business side of things. So that to me really interested me. And while I was doing my placement, I did a lot of shadowing. I shadowed a lot because especially my role was a role that I could finish my tasks earlier because I had monthly deadlines. Once I'm done with my deadline, I spent the other time doing hackathons, shadowing people, getting involved in events in the company. I even had time to set up a mentorship scheme with my university. So you can really milk the opportunity that you have once you're in the company. You don't just have to be limited to the role that they've employed you for. You can really show your value by getting involved in so many things, which again count in your CV. So make the most use of your time while you're at that company. Lastly, it doesn't affect your grades. So you may think that when you take a 12-month break from your study, when you go back, that, okay, I've not been studying for 12 months. Am I really going to be able to hack final year? Yes, you can. I actually got a fast class even after being away for 12 months. And I honestly didn't struggle getting back into the rhythm of things. Something that I liked was when you study, you're now used to 9 to 5, 9 to 5. So when you go back, you won't be struggling to have an actual routine dedicated towards study. You can wake up typical 9, go for your classes, go study. So you're already used to a certain routine. Because I know as a student, you can work through the whole night, sleep the whole day. Like you have that kind of flexibility. But especially in final year where you have a dissertation to work through and all of that, having been used to a routine to me was an advantage. So this moves on to the cons. So of course, everything has a flip side. So I'd say the big flip side that I noted is, of course, your friends and the classmates that you were used to, they all graduate a year before you because you've been a year out. Unless, of course, all of you decide to go on the placement. So for me, a good bunch of my friends went on placement as well. So we met for final year, which was good. But that's the big thing. But again, you can weigh your pros and cons and see. I mean, your friends are gonna graduate. You're gonna be together on the graduation day, but you'll all probably go and work in different areas. If you're in the UK, international student, people will go back to their countries. So it's a con, but you can really weigh and see what's important to you. Another con is also the fact that if you're an international student, you still need to pay a certain fee for that year that you're out. So for me, I had to pay around a quarter of what I would normally have paid if I was full-time in the uni. So you do need to pay a certain aspect. For normal home students, I think they still need to pay for at least my engineering course. You had to pay a small fee because the supervisor will have to come and see you. You have to write up an actual report. So once you go for your placement, you don't just come back straight in. You need to be awarded a grade for that year. So you have to write a report based on what you've learned, basically highlighting how it ties into your degree and what skills you've learned during that year. So you have to write a report that has to be marked. And I'm assuming for those services and to remain a student, they charge you a small fee for that. Also, the schedule that I'd kind of inferred to earlier, at first it's a shock. If you're used to being a student, you're used to not having too much of a routine other than your class timetable, which in university is here and there. The 9 to 5 takes a bit of time to get used to. Trust me, and that time was before Corona, so you had to go into office at least for the first few months before they know you and you can maybe work out a flexible working from home arrangement. So having to wake up every morning, making sure I make it into the office, yes, that was something you have to get used to, and that's a con. So that's basically it. Those are the few cons I could think of. To be honest, in my opinion, the pros outweigh the cons completely. Like, trust me, being able to have work experience in your bag compared to somebody else who's just been studying, you stand out like crazy during the interviews. I remember during one of my interviews, which I actually got an offer from that company, but I didn't take it. It was for an engineering role. So for a lot of these engineering roles, they require you to do a technical presentation. And they already expect you to talk, especially because they're dealing with final year students. Everyone's going to be talking about their dissertation. You may even note that some of their prompting questions are centered around a dissertation. But when you speak of something else, so for me, I gave an example from a project that I did while I was at IBM and actually won that challenge. That really piqued the interest of the panel. You can already tell that they're wondering, oh, okay, so you did this, oh, you worked for IBM, oh, really? Oh, so it really changes the conversation and you're more memorable and you definitely stand out. So just have a think about it. If it's something that you're allowed to do in your course, definitely go for it. And it gives even practice for graduate scheme because you have to do everything that a normal grad would do. You have to do online tests, you have to submit your online application, do online tests, do face-to-face interview, do assessment center. So it gives you the practice that because you have to go through that stage when you graduate. So according to me, if you can't do an industrial placement, do it. I don't regret it. It changed my life for the better. I changed my career path and I knew exactly what kind of jobs I wanted to apply for when I graduate. So it could do the same for you. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm going to have more videos coming up in the work series. So if you have any specific questions, any specific topic areas that you'd like me to cover, definitely let me know. Put them in the comment section below. Also, if you'd like to be my mentee, I have opened a mentorship scheme. I also offer a few more consultation services. So if you'd like to find out more, just book and reserve your slot through the link that I'll put in the description box below. Until next time, bye.